All right, everybody, welcome on into Tomes. My name is Jason Wiley. I am one of your hosts for this episode. I am joined by my awesome and lovely co-host, Cody.
Aw, shucks. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, anytime. All right, so today we will be actually talking about the Wheel of Time, but before we get into that, we'll cover some fantasy news before we dive into the main topic here. So, Cody, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, first off, just a nice little reminder, Percy Jackson series still scheduled for December 20th of this year. Super excited for that one.
Yeah, I still need to watch the trailer.
It looks so good.
I believe you. I still need to look it up and do it.
Yeah, well, enjoy it when you do.
I will. And things that are not on schedule, Dune Part 2 got delayed to March.
No.
Yeah.
I'm so sad. I had plans for it. Like, I had a whole group ready to go in November. And I'm so sad.
Did you have somebody that dressed up with the worm with?
I could definitely talk him into it.
Oh, dude. Okay. So real quick side rant here. Have you watched Chuck?
No.
And Chuck, because again, the whole thing with Chuck is he's a nerd that works. He works basically for Best Buy, but it's called Buy More. He gets all the secret intelligence stuff. But yeah, him and his friend, they dress up as the worm from Dune.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they do it for a Halloween party. That's what came to my mind. Where he's like, yeah, I got an entire group together. I was like, oh, please tell me one of them is going to be dressing up as the worm.
That would be so funny. I can have one of my friends do that, and then have another one dress up as Paul Atreides and have him riding on the back.
Oh, that would be funny. Oh, that would. If you do, you got to send me pictures and videos. I need this.
100%.
But yeah, well, that's been delayed. Now things that have been coming out this week, we have a lot on our docket, and we're talking Wheel of Time. Although we will be putting time aside to talk about all these other live-action adaptations, from Ahsoka to the One Piece live-action adaptation, which I'm currently in the process watching right now. I'm on episode 3 of 8, so I'm almost halfway through. But overall, I've been pleasantly surprised with most of them.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I haven't seen One Piece yet, but I plan to, and it looked pretty good from the trailers and some clips I saw.
So this is my quick little minutes recap of everything I've seen. Overall, they're keeping the spirit, they're keeping the tone, and they're keeping the storytelling accurate to One Piece. In fact, I think the way they're doing the storytelling might be better than they did in the manga. In the regards of, again, one of the characters that you meet in the first episode, you don't see him again for hundreds of episodes, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the background. In the live action, they're showing it side by side as it's kind of happening, which I think is a really cool way of doing the storytelling and kind of keeps it very enticing, very engaging. My only beef with it is they went a little too serious with the live action, but it's not bad, so to speak.
Okay. I know beforehand, from the trailers, you were worried about, is it Nani, the girl?
Nami, yeah.
I am, about her humor being more sarcastic or dry sarcasm rather than how it is in the show.
Yeah, and again, it matches the tone with the show itself.
Okay.
Like, again, the tone itself overall is a lot more on the serious side of it. Like, Luffy is the comedic relief. Like, but again, that's how it is in the show too. This is just, it's a more serious tone to it. They do have a couple of jokes here and there, a couple of funny instances. Like, I'm laughing here and there, but one of my favorite instances just with One Piece is like when Shanks is at the tavern and Luffy eats the gum fruit.
Yeah.
Because in the anime, when he eats it, Shanks literally grabs Luffy by the legs and starts shaking him, saying, spit it out, spit it out, spit it out. And that's when you see the gum ability kick in, because as he goes down, the legs extend and Luffy face plants it into the ground. Okay. Like it's that physical comedy, just because Shanks like, what the? Spit it out, spit it out, spit it out.
Too late.
Whereas in the show, that doesn't happen. That whole comedic point is just dropped, and they switch it to a more serious tone, where Luffy, pissed at Shanks, goes to the side and just like, oh, this was this was in a special box, so I'm gonna eat it. And then he comes out, and he just like has a little fight with Shanks and is about ready to run away when Shanks grabs his arm, and that's when we see the Gum Gum ability kick in. And he's like, "What have you done?"
Gotcha. I can see that.
Like it's a little bit more serious tone, but again, this is where it's still staying true to the source material. It's just it's a more serious tone. And some
Mhm.
people have been turned off by it, some people haven't. I'm okay with it because in some instances the serious tone is kind of nice,
Yeah.
but it also can make some interesting comedic moments, especially with Zoro.
Oh yeah.
So again, it's a mixed bag. It's very
Okay.
interesting though.
Okay.
It's not like Death Note or from Alchemist live action adaptation. They're at least staying accurate to the source material.
That's good at least. Those were fun.
hmm But
I
now, other live action adaptation, which is our topic for today.
Yeah. So Wheel of Time. I We both binged this last night. I finished mine up this morning, but
You had a
we
lot more
binged
to
a lot of it.
cover. I only had 3 episodes to cover, whereas you had, I want to say, what, 7?
Yeah, I had to finish the last season because I hadn't yet, and so I went back and finished the season, and then started this one and watched it all. So it was a long binge,
Uh, yeah.
but
Because,
it was
yeah, each
good.
episode's an hour. So that's 7 hours.
Yeah. Yep. But
But,
luckily, I
I
had the time. So
yeah. So, again, this is where, in some respects, I think you ending off in season 1, going into season 2, might help answer some questions that I have because I forgot some of the stuff.
okay.
So again, I just want to say episode 1 actually starts off this very similar to the way the book starts. That it is basically a dark friend meeting where we have the Forsaken Ashamael, we have Padon Thane, we have just this entire inner circle of dark friends.
Hmm.
Uh, Whereas in the book, they more focused on the conversation at hand. The show is more focusing on the kid's perspective,
Yeah,
which interesting take on it. Like again, no complaints, just it's a different take.
it is. I thought that part was actually really well done. I
Mm-hmm.
really enjoyed how they did that. It kind of reminded me of Harry Potter. I think it's books 4.
7 or for, which part?
Book 4, where it's the caretaker walking in.
Oh, okay,
It gave
yeah,
me very similar vibes to that, but this goes to show how this, the Ishmael,
yeah, Ishamael.
Shamael, that he's a much better villain than Voldemort.
Oh
I
yeah.
am, but I just really enjoyed how he basically is like, I'm a monster. Do I look like a monster? No. Well, they may look like monsters, but they can be friendly. And just like the twisted and just the dark and twisted nature that he has, I thought was
Mm-hmm.
really cool. However, this is the thing that really frustrated me, I guess, is I
Mm-hmm.
felt like it was a 180 flip because at the end of season 1 they say this is the dark, like the Dark Lord or whatever they call him, the darkness,
The
and
dark
then
one.
the dark one, and then instantly in season 2 they're like, oh no, it's not the dark one at all. And I'm just like, that should have been a reveal at the season finale. That should have been there, not just a toss aside thing at the start of the season. And it just felt like it took back a lot of what they just did, and it just, I don't know, I didn't like how they handled that.
Okay, so now I'm gonna explain to you the why everybody was pissed for season 1 because they did that. Now, in the books, what it was is, again, as you saw throughout season 1, is Perrin, Matt, and Rand, they were having these nightmares
Okay.
with, again, supposedly the Dark One. In
Yeah.
the book, this is where it was accurate of that it was one of the Forsaken portraying himself as the Dark One.
Okay.
But it is at the very end of the book where they go, that wasn't the Dark One. That was one of the Forsaken.
Gotcha.
And they make that connection. And then the part where I was confused on why they were doing this, but now as we got more into the series, I'm like, okay, it's going to be a different angle. I'm not the biggest fan of it. Is at the end of the first book, Moraine and Rand know that Rand is who he is. He's the dragon reborn.
Yeah.
They know this. Nobody else does. But so Rand has to keep that a secret from everybody else. He does not run off. He stays with his friends.
Okay.
The big old fight at the end where the Trollocs come in and attack the Shinarans,
Yeah.
that happens at the beginning of the second book. Because
Oh.
at the very end of the first book, it is Rand, he fights the dark, again, a Shamael, or I want to say it was Baalzamon. Either way, he fights one of the Forsaken who's masquerading himself as the Dark One.
Mhm.
And then they head back to Shinar, where they have a big old party. Matt's there, Perrin's there, everybody's there. In fact, Matt is gambling. And he, at that point, he gets separated from the dagger from that point. When the Trollocs come and attack, that's when they do take the Horn of Valir. And that's what starts the book 2 for the Great Hunt. Is they start trying to hunt down Padon Thane for taking the Horn of Valir. This is where the Shinarans, they take it under more oath because, and this is one thing they've done in the show, and we'll get more to it, but they talk about the hunt for the horn, the Great Hunt, how it's in, was it Marrakesh? Oh my gosh, I can never say the name of the city. It's the city that Rand is actually in.
Yeah, it's CH. I am
Kyrian. That's what it's called.
Kyrian.
In Kyrian. They have that entire, it's a kind of a more formality. This is where the Great Horn starts. The Shinarans are like, we know the horn is real and we're actually hunting it. This is the true Great Hunt. Rand, Matt, and Perrin are all in on this hunt.
Okay.
That's why I was so confused with the direction they took in season 1. But this is where I've also been trying to keep in mind that this is another turning of the wheel instead. So again, I was still confused on very much on why they went this direction. But at this point, I'm rolling with it.
So they're using a trope that's almost a cliche at this point. It might be a cliche of the hero trying to understand the powers, and they have to do that by going off on their own. And I mean, we see this trope in The Shadow of What Was Lost.
Yes.
And it's one that can be done really well. And honestly, I think that they do a decent job of it in the show, from the outside perspective of never having read the books. And it made sense, and what he's doing, it makes sense. But yeah, honestly, I was okay with it. I thought it was a good way to go about it. If something felt off with it though, when I was watching, I was like, I wonder how they do this in the book, because it just felt different. It felt like it was their own take on things. It didn't feel like the story naturally progressing.
Yeah. Now here's the funny thing. Book 3, that's when Rand does this.
So they're speeding things up.
They're speeding things up a lot, where it feels like they're combining book 2 and book 3 in the same instance.
Okay.
So that's where I'm just like, I understand if they're trying to speed it up because, sorry, there's 14 freaking books.
Oh, yeah.
If they're trying to do 14 seasons, these kids are going to be old by the time they finish it. So yeah. I can understand if they're trying to like compact it so they can move faster.
Yeah. No, definitely agree.
So that's where I know a lot of people, where mine was very much hesitation. Like, where the heck are they going with this? This isn't even how book 2 really starts.
Okay.
But this is where, so far, they are actually been correcting the path and making it more accurate to the book in a lot of different ways.
So, like where they changed it back to being one of the Forsaken instead of being the actual Dark One.
Correct. Because even in the book, it was like, this is a Forsaken masquerading as the Dark One, but they spelled it more out in the book. Whereas in the show, they're like, oh, yeah, this is a Shamael, one of the Forsaken.
Yeah. Literally, yeah. That's literally just what they started off saying is, oh, we released a Shamael. It's not even like he tricked us into being thinking that we were going to face the dark when it was actually Shamael. It was just, yeah, we released a Shamael and it's actually what happened. And I was just like, wait, like there was nothing leading up to this. There's nothing to prepare for it. It's just suddenly this is the information, deal with it. There's I don't feel like this is right. Like
Yeah.
it,
Uh,
it was just a retcon. And now that I understand the context of it, it makes sense. They're trying to fix the mistakes they made.
And this is where, in a lot of respects, the thing that I'm seeing it now, kind of like, because again, hindsight's 2020. As now we've gotten more into the second season, they are backtracking and they are throwing in a lot of good information that I missed, that I wished they put into season one, and they're now putting it into season two.
Okay. Such as?
We'll get to
Okay.
that because there is quite a bit, but this was the one thing that I think it does not make sense for me. So at the very end of season one, Moraine loses connection to the One Power.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in the book.
No. Hold on just one second. I
Okay,
hear one of my sons.
it's okay. Let me put a marker. Okay. Let me backtrack it just a smidge. Okay.
My oldest is keeping my youngest awake. He's in there,
Oh
got
no.
in bed with him and is starting to play. I'm just like, your bed. Go to sleep.
Don't make me get the cough syrup.
That's the special nighttime formula. This is chloroform.
Yeah, it's nighttime formula.
All right.
All right.
Anyways, back to
So
Will Time.
Moraine was never really stilled in the books. I understand why they did it in one respect, because being stilled, again, being cut off from the One Power, it is truly horrendous. Where a lot of Chandlers, when they're stilled, most of them don't last a week. Like, they commit suicide.
Mhm.
Like, this is where, so in one respect, like, I understand what they're trying to do, and they're trying to have Moraine be this strong, independent woman that need no man.
Mhm.
Because in one respect, she already is that. Even in the book, Lan's and Moraine's relationship was always that of, we're a team, we're partners, we are in this together.
Yeah.
So a lot of Moraine and Lan scenes, I was not the biggest fan of,
Yeah. I can definitely see that.
just because it feels a little stagnant. But for me, the gems in those scenes was actually Varen, the Aes Sedai sisters that they are crashing with.
Okay.
Because the sisters and Tomas, their warder,
Mm-hmm.
they got it. They nailed it down to a T, and I loved it.
That's awesome.
Like, the casting choice, phenomenal. Their interactions was just perfect, especially the one sister who's just like ogling Lan.
Yeah.
Like, I love that. I was just like, I love they really nailed these two sisters. It's just, and this is the thing I love and hated when reading Wheel of Time. You can hate a lot of these characters. Like Moraine, Nynaeve, and Egwene, they drive me up a freaking tree every time.
Yeah.
I love Moraine around book 3, book 4, because Rand is like sticking her in her place. Just, it's again, okay, that comes across as very misogynistic. What I really mean by that is Moraine, you see this very much. You see that she has a high superiority complex.
Yeah.
Everybody is beneath her. Everybody's there to serve her.
Yeah.
Because she says she is serving the dragon. Rand, being the sociopath he is, sees this as like, okay, how far are you actually willing to go for the dragon? So it's nice to have her humbling moments.
Yeah, that's how I took it when you said it. Just because thinking of her
Yeah.
character, where she has a superiority complex. She is very much that personality where no one else matters. She's a narcissist. And she's like, I'm the best. I know the most. My plan is the only plan, and we're gonna do that. And if you don't want to do that, I'm gonna manipulate you into doing it. So if someone doesn't take her crap and puts her in her place, it's really entertaining, very
Oh yeah.
satisfying.
And the actor they got to do Bell Domon, the one fisherman that goes to trade with like the Queen DR and the
Mm,
poem,
yeah.
they did pretty good casting on that. I just wanted him to be a little bit more skeezier
Okay.
because Bell Domon is very much like a pirate.
Yeah.
Like he is like again, he's very much he is a pirate that's forced to be good in situations. He does it just going, I'm going to get screwed if I don't. Okay, it's just better to go along with it.
Yeah.
So I liked kind of the way they did that.
Okay.
uh, some other positives here in the first episode. The White Tower. Honestly, they are killing it with the White Tower. They are just nailing it. Like I love it.
Yeah, the White Tower is really impressive. It's one of those scenes where every time anyone of the Aes Sedai opened their mouths, I'm just like, that's manipulation, that's manipulation, that's manipulation. Wow, I really don't like these people. Uh, I was like, I
And
feel like that's actually how it is in the book.
it is. That's the best part. Is that again? Nobody trusts Aes Sedai. Even though one of the O's they take is they cannot lie, they are so freaking manipulative, and everybody hates the Aes Sedai because of that.
Yeah, I understand why.
Like, anytime an Aes Sedai walks into the, because again, they all have that superiority complex, every single freaking one of them,
Hmm.
because they can channel the one power. Because it's basically very much like these are people who have the power of nukes.
Yeah,
They can bully rulers who don't have nukes.
yeah.
So they had the high superiority complex because, like, oh, I've got the training, so I know how to use the one power, and I can manipulate you to do whatever I want it to do because I can say it's for the greater good when it's actually serving my personal interests.
Yep, because your personal interests are the greater good for you.
Exactly, and that's why like people hate the Aes Sedai in the world. So
Oh.
they've really nailed it, and the politicking inside the White Tower
Hmm.
has been glorious because that is how it is in the book. There's so many underhanded tactics, so many manipulations within the White Tower against other Aes Sedai. And this is one thing I wish they talked a little bit about more because, oh my gosh, is it Kyrian where Rand is at? Because I keep on, I
Um,
apologize,
yeah,
but
the
Kyrian,
Kyrian or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
In Kyrian, they have this thing called Deus de Mar. It is called the Game of Houses.
Okay.
It is said in the book that the Aes Sedai came up with it because it is the politics that go into the houses. That's why it's called like the Game of Houses. It is playing one political house against the other. And that's
Okay.
what we see in the White Tower is one Aja trying to gain political influence over the other, trying to get a specific novice to be in their Aja.
Hmm.
And that's one thing I'm really hoping and looking forward to because again, I'm pretty sure they will talk more about what each Aja represents. Because right
Yeah.
now they've just kind of talked about the red Aja, the green Aja, the blue Aja, the white Aja, the brown Aja. They've just kind of talked about it, like what each like the different Ajas, not what each one of them represent.
Yeah. The only things I actually know about the different ones is that the yellow ones are healers.
Mm-hmm.
The red ones hunt down the men who can
You can channel.
enchant or can channel. Thank you.
Yep.
And then I know that the blue. So just from what I've seen, the blues are kind of like the spies, kind of
Yes.
where like they go all over the place. They gather networks. That's their entire thing is information.
Yes. The
Uh,
blue Aja is basically the intelligence. They are intelligence gatherers. They're the ones that have information. They have a spy network.
Okay. And then the green are really interesting to me. I can't really place what they do, but they just basically feel like soldiers.
You're correct. They are the military Aja. So
Okay.
if you notice the one green that we see a lot of, her
Hmm.
and her two warders, the green Aja are actually want to have as many warders as possible because what it's supposed to be is those in the green Aja, they're the commanders of their warders.
Makes sense.
So the green Aja is nicknamed the War Aja. Whenever a war breaks out, the Greens go out. So in episode 3, when Nynaeve is in the final trial, you hear her say Egwene is going with the Greens up north
Yes.
because the Green Aja is the war Aja. So that's kind of what that is. Yeah. Like again, you got all the Ajas really nailed. Only
Okay.
again, Brown one really has not been talked about because Brown, in one respect, again, to everybody else, is boring, but I think they're the most interesting
Okay.
because they're the research Aja. They're the ones that know the lore. They're the
R&D.
ones that know the history.
Yeah.
Which is why like the blue Aja and the brown Aja really work together and get along. That's why like Moraine is working with Varen. Varen and his and
Okay.
her sister.
Yeah.
Is because they're the brown. So they have research, they have knowledge.
Gotcha. Okay.
But all the other sisters look down on them because like, oh, you rather spend your time in books instead of practicing the one power.
Okay.
So again, that's where again the politicking that's going inside the White Tower, I just absolutely love because it is accurate, and I love how they all celebrate Beltane, Egwene, Nynaeve, Perrin, Matt, and Rand. How they all celebrate Beltane because that is a holiday that happens in the Two Rivers.
Yeah, I thought that was a really cool way to show that even though they're all in their own places, they're
Mm-hmm.
still unified. Right.
Yes, and
They're
they
still
did.
connected, rather.
Oh, and they did such a good job.
Hmm.
And again, just there is a lot of things they are doing fantastic this season. Like Nynaeve. Nynaeve is, if you can tell, she is super stubborn.
Yes.
In fact, actually, one of the memes when I was reading Will Time was Nynaeve says, "I'm sorry, I was wrong." Perrin, Matt, Rand, all of them are like, Dissecting is like, "I'm sorry, you're wrong, you're stubborn." They're just like, "Are you really Nynaeve?"
It's an
because that's
imposter.
yeah, because that's how much of a character she is. And so her practicing with the sword, because that was always her train of thought, is like a sword is more dependable than the one power
Okay.
because it's easier in one respect.
Yeah.
So again, I love the fact that Nynaeve was trying to use the sword more, practicing with the warders, and the warders. Again, I like the warders that in this for the instruction and the advice they give her.
Hmm.
Like the so this is where they did make a change. So as we see Nynaeve in the kitchen trying to filter the water,
Yeah.
it is Leandrin of the Red Aja that comes in and shows her the one true power, like how it's better than a sword, on how you can do much more with it than she
Okay.
is giving credit to. In the book, it's actually the Armerlin seat that shows her.
Oh.
So
Okay.
this is where I'm like, oh, that's actually an interesting change, and I want to see how this plays out, especially me knowing what's going to happen with Leandrin.
Yeah.
So this is where I like this take instead. Instead of it being the Armerlin seat, coming in just like, oh, let me show you how it's done. Okay, I'll leave you now on your own. Because
Yeah.
that's how it goes in the book. Whereas Leandrin, it feels like she now actually has a stake in the game.
It does. I thought that was really well done, and I felt like that was a lot more believable and understanding than having the Amaranth seat do it because they reference like trying to meet with the Amaranth seat again. They're like, well, she doesn't have time for us, and I thought it made a lot more sense for one of the or for Leandrin. What's
Yeah, Leandrin. Yeah.
Leandrin? For her. to do that, and I felt it fit really well, and I've been really enjoying that development between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
I and the times where you see the cracks and Leandrin's wall that she puts up.
Mm-hmm. Like, again, a lot of the character development they are doing in this season is phenomenal. The character choices and everything they're doing, I've been really impressed with. This is where, again, some of the changes don't need to be exactly one for one with the book.
Yeah, I agree,
But,
especially because they're trying to expedite it,
mm-hmm.
to fit it all. I think they're doing a really good job of doing that.
Yeah, they're doing a great job. And I really like, again, I do like how we at least have one of the boys doing the great hunt, which is Perrin.
Yes.
And,
Okay,
oh,
go ahead.
go. Okay, go, 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 go.
No, I'm gonna say my biggest complaint.
Okay.
So it's an second biggest. My biggest was with the Dark One and all that part. My
Mm-hmm.
second biggest is at the battle. I'm at the season finale. I'm Dro Ross. What city was that?
Uh, Shinar, I want to say.
So it is in Shinar. Yeah,
Yeah.
the I don't remember the city's name anymore. But in that battle, Perrin will not fight. They do the whole pacifist. He won't kill anymore. He won't take up a blade. He won't do any of that. And then the next season, that's just gone. And not only that, but then the Ogier, who's helping him with that, whose big line was even like though everyone's coming to attack, he's like, there's always another option other than violence. As soon as
Mm-hmm.
they're attacked, he's fighting back.
Yeah. Loyal.
That was yeah. I was like, that's a little bull. Like they just completely threw that out.
They completely did a 180, which
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
So I
Like,
understand that his character was trying to go through that piecing because he felt all that anger because everything that happened, and I thought it was really interesting character development in that dichotomy, the schism between the two.
mm-hmm.
But I just feel like they should have wrapped that up instead of just tossing it to the side.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because again, Parent, especially in the beginning, he is a pacifist. He doesn't. This is why he was very much wanting to follow the way of the leaf.
Mm-hmm.
Because he just. But again, that's also where he was conflicted. Is like there are opportunities where you do need to defend yourself.
Yeah.
And this is where I was not the biggest fan of this change from the book in the movie. Perrin wasn't married at this point. He,
Oh, okay.
because you gotta remember, actually, again, in the book, they're younger. Like we're talking 14 years old.
That's right.
They're younger, so they don't know really anything about the world. They are truly naive.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that parent has this trauma on not wanting to kill because of his wife, I understand that that is a stronger character choice, but it just doesn't make sense, at least from the book standing, because Paramore, because again, Paramore has a phobia because of how big he is. He's always scared of accidentally crushing someone because of how big and strong he is. That
Okay.
was his phobia in the books because sorry, he is a blacksmith. He is meant to create. He created weapons. He used iron. Like he made all these things. And that's always how he identified himself, was that he was this blacksmith. So to take up arms and to kill, in the book he's like he's a little bit more willing to do it because he's like it's in self-defense. I am not trying to be aggressive. I'm trying to defend myself. But as the wolf power takes over, he's not wanting to feed the wolf and become a monster.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm glad they finally introduced Elias.
Yes. I really like Elias. I think he's a really cool character.
Elias is dope. His backstory, I really hope they get into it more because it is a good backstory.
So I have a question.
Okay.
At the first episode, when they're having the Dark Friend meeting,
Mm-hmm.
was that Elias at the table?
No, that's Pat on Thane.
Okay, that was Paddleton. Okay, just the look when the kid walked away and pulled the hood back and looked, he looked different than in the
Mm-hmm.
previous season, and it just looked more animalistic. And so when it showed Elias, I am, I for a second, well, before until now, I was thinking that was him, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I was like, how is this gonna play out? So that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, it's Paddle Thane, and the reason why he's looking more animalistic is because he's been living with the Trollocs.
Gotcha.
They eat humans.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so that's why I believe he looks more animalistic.
Okay.
Uh, but one big pro that they just nailed, although I'm sad for episode 3, Uno. Uno is the guy with the eye patch. They nailed him to a
He
T.
was my favorite. I was so sad when he died. I saw it coming a mile away, but I was so sad.
And he doesn't die till basically the last battle in the book.
Really?
He, like, seriously, so, because again, this is very different from the book. Basically, Nynaeve, Egwene, Elaine, all of them, they leave the White Tower under the Armland Seed's name to basically go and do stuff.
Okay.
On their way back to the tower, it's Uno and the Shinarans that help escort them back to a certain point.
Yeah.
Like, Uno lives for quite a long time, and because he was too freaking stubborn to die. So in one respect, that I have, again, small hope, I doubt it, that instead what they're going to do is the Shan Chan, they're going to use their Dumani to heal him and basically force him to their service. Doubtful,
Okay.
but I hoped. I hope.
Yeah.
But no, I love Uno just because in the book, he has that potty mouth. That freaking potty mouth. I loved it. Like, him and Mac got along so freaking good because of how much they cursed.
That's awesome.
In fact, Elaine, which now you have met in episode 2, likes spending time with Uno because she loves learning curse words.
That's
like,
funny. She's
like,
the princess, right?
Yes, she is the princess. But, so actually, I'm just going to kind of skip down to my final thoughts on episode 1. Because what I wrote down is the first episode was kind of a realignment from everything that happened in the first season. It was the recap and making changes to get back on track with the book, so to speak. The changes they've made so far, there really isn't anything that I'm hating. I'm not the biggest fan of the focus on Moraine. I feel like they are shifting the focus on the events in the White Tower, which I believe is a very strong choice.
It's fair.
I do like how they show more how formidable the Murdral are at the end of the first episode.
Yeah, the fades.
Yeah, the fades. I like how they're showing they're a little bit more formidable, but I'm just saying, one of the biggest and scariest things with the Murdral, again, Murdral and Nazgul, almost synonymous, because their blades are also poisoned.
Gotcha.
So Moraine getting stabbed and Lan getting stabbed, they're basically dead. Like, a lot of characters in the book die that way.
Oh.
And it's because of that poison.
So it is a strong choice not to have that.
Correct. So that's what makes fighting the Mordor a lot more formidable, is because they can't land a hit on you where you have to hit them more.
Yeah.
But again, I do like Lan's character. I do. And this was one of the opinions I have, so I don't care. Comment section, you can disagree with me. But again, Moraine going through being stilled, going through that entire process, and how Varen is trying to make it seem like Moraine is being so strong, going through it. One of the big steps when it comes with dealing with trauma is moving on and being able to reach out to those close to you. So this is actually kind of a pro with Moraine, is because she's not at that point yet.
Yeah.
Whereas Moraine is still sorting through her feelings on her wounds and dealing with being stilled. But again, it's at some point that they do snap out of it. And this is where Lan is doing the best he can do, and where I like what the choices that Lan has made. Because I don't know about you, but if you've dealt with anybody that's had any sort of trauma, you get frustrated, you're about ready to snap because they're not listening, they're not accepting the help. So when we see Lan snap, makes perfect sense to me.
It does. I can definitely relate to that.
But
Oh, yeah, I
I
definitely, yeah, I really like that as well. I thought Land's side of it was all really well done,
mhm,
and it's really obvious what Moraine's doing, but she still does it so well that it's just
mhm.
infuriating.
Yeah. And this is where it's just like, I'm so infuriated with the character, but that means they're doing it right, so to speak.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Here's the biggest way that I can tell if someone's doing a good job acting. Do I believe that this is the character, or does this feel like an actor portraying the character? And all of
Yes.
these feel like characters.
Hmm. Like
Moraine,
I
especially,
have
she
been,
is Moraine.
oh yeah, like I have been very blown away by the acting skill of everybody on this cast. Like they are doing a phenomenal job in acting.
I agree.
Like there is never a moment that I'm going, oh, this is an actor. I'm going, oh, good choice, good choice,
Yeah.
good character choice. that
Yeah.
that lines up with the character. I support it.
Yeah. I think they're doing a phenomenal job.
But yeah, episode 2 we deal more into Rand. We're actually getting more into Rand's situation.
Yes.
And I love one detail they finally threw in. Oh, it's the Swordmaster.
Oh,
So
the old, yeah.
not just that, but so in the book, the way they explain sword fighting is through the forms. They
Mhm.
never go like the sword was raised up above his head and he struck down. It was always he moved into parting of the silk next to like drop down, like, yeah, dropping of the rat. Like it's
Mhm.
always talking about that. So the fact when Rand is in the psych ward talking to that old swordmaster and he's explaining it, I'm just like, yes, we're finally getting it.
I thought it was really cool how he was doing that and the way that he talked about it. I really enjoyed that.
Like it is one of those details that I'm just like, they are doing it. They are trying to stay true to the source material. And keeping the idea of like this is just a different turning of the wheel is helping a lot. Because they're still keeping the same key events. They're
Mhm.
just making minor alterations compared to the dumpster fire that is Rings of Power.
Yes,
They are trying to stay true to the source material and they are keeping its essence. So I give major props to that.
definitely. I definitely agree. I really enjoyed Rand's progression through episode 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
I and I really liked how he's becoming more and more methodical,
Mm-hmm.
even though he's I so he has a schism in him as well. And it's really cool to see where on one side of him he is becoming more, like I said, more methodical, but then he lets emotion take over and it gets extremely aggressive. So like he intended to beat the guy, but he didn't intend to use the one power and almost kill
Mm-hmm.
him. And just that dichotomy on him is really cool to see and how he's overcoming it. But then he does all of that just to get in to talk to the person. I don't remember his name, but he was at the
Logain.
start of it, Logain. I and just getting there to talk to him and did all of that. All of it was to get there to talk to him to be able to try to control himself more. And then to get the answer they did is just it was a big blow to him, and seeing how he handles it is really interesting.
And this is where everything that's happening with Rand is genius and perfectly scripted.
Mhm.
Because the biggest thing, because again, I know they covered this in season 1 a bit, is that the male half is tainted. So where any man who channels slowly goes mad.
Yes.
And I love seeing Logain's ticks, where it is truly he has gone mad.
Yeah. Like there's times where he seems sane, but then he does the like he'll do something. You're just like, oh no, he actually is crazy, and it's just so hard to tell when he's lucid and when he's very manic.
Mm-hmm.
So
And I love how, and this is where it landed. Again, he has that dichotomy inside of him. And that dichotomy also goes on to another level because the Dragon Reborn technically has two personalities in him. He's got Rand and he's got Lews Therin Telamon, the
Okay.
dragon.
So is
So
Luz the original?
Lews Therin is the original.
Okay.
Lews Therin Telamon, he is the one who broke the world. And that's one thing I wish they covered more in season one, is because the prologue in book one does an amazing job with this.
Okay.
Because again, it talks because again, very similar to like in The Shadow of What Was Lost, how we're given that like precursor of this is what happens. This is what has happened. That is what Will Time does, is it goes through and precursors it and is from Lews Therin's perspective. It's talking to Lews Therin Telamon right before he basically kills himself.
Okay.
Because he's gone mad with the one power because of the taint.
Yeah, and it's something that
Like,
he does that causes the taint, correct?
uh, kind of yes and no. It's the dark
Okay.
one. The dark one taints the one power for the male half.
Okay.
And Lews Therin goes, I have to beat the dark one, so he has to use more of the one power the more he drinks in that taint. And
Gotcha.
this is where the dark one, because the Forsaken, the male Forsaken can use the one power, no problem, without going mad, because they have the dark one's blessing.
Hmm.
So they have that boon to where they don't go mad and they can use the male half as much as they want.
Okay.
So that's kind of at least the inner workings of the background. And this is where I'm glad this season it's not, they are diving into some of the deep lore stuff, like the ter'angreal, the different kinds of weaves, and just kind of breaking it down more, but it's digestible.
Yeah.
And they're just doing a phenomenal job with doing that. Uh, but I still do love how all the people are like, oh, Rand, Aiel. All because of the red hair.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I shaved it down specifically for this purpose, and they can all still tell I'm Aiel.
Yo, there's like, you might shave your hair, but I can still see the red.
Yeah. And Celine's casting, they did a great job.
Yeah.
Celine is the girl Rand is with.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I know who she
phenomenal
is.
job. Like, again, I cannot get over how well they did the casting.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, she's a really entertaining character. Very, I don't know. I'm trying to think of another character that she's like, but she's very, because she plays on a lot of tropes,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't name another character that's like exactly like her. And so I was just trying to think of something to connect it. But I really enjoy her character. I think she's been really fun to see and just, especially at the party, and
Which,
how she's just plays into it all.
oh yeah, and I was so happy with the party. The cloak
Yeah.
Rand is wearing, go and look up Will Time Memory of Light cover. It is the exact coat Rand is wearing.
Oh yeah.
Like, it is it to a T. So that's why when she actually comes, I was like, "Ooh, I like the outfit. I want to see you in it more." I'm just like, "Cause it's the right coat."
That's funny. Yeah. He Rand at like when he's dressed up like that and from this cover really gives me an Adolin vibe.
Oh yeah, like this is where again Robert Jordan, very interesting the way he makes his characters is because each one of these kingdoms has their own style. Seriously, if you like go into like Will Time Wiki and type in Kyrian, it has an entire list of how their culture is supposed to dress, and basically Kyrian is the French.
Oh,
Like
okay.
like he has broken this down so beautifully, and again this season's really standing out to me because they are looking at those details and I can see it, and I have been just very impressed so far.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Each place they go to feels flushed out. It
Mm-hmm.
feels like it's its own unique area, and it feels like it has its own culture. Season two more so, but season one, even the season one with the Shenarans,
Yeah.
I I really enjoyed that. I thought it was really well done.
Mm-hmm. Uh, but okay, so I'm gonna jump back to the White Tower because Elaine. Oh my gosh,
Yes,
I Elaine to this day is still my favorite female character in this book.
she's been one of my favorite characters for sure. Going through the just seeing in the show.
Just, I love her character in the book because the way and the show is doing her justice.
Hmm.
Because, okay, you look at Nynaeve and look at Egwene. These are women who are beyond stubborn, who are not going to move an inch.
Hmm.
No matter what logic you give them, they're not moving. Elaine's got the logic, she's got the common sense, she knows how to be diplomatic, and she very much shows that she is a princess.
Yes.
And this is where like the trope of like, oh, in one respect you could almost label Elaine as a Mary Sue. But she's a Mary Sue in a crappy situation. She's having to deal with stubborn people.
It's fair.
And because this is how it is accurate to the book is Elaine and Egwene become the bestest of friends in the White Tower during their novice training. And I love the name drops that Elaine does, like Cat Swain. She is a huge name drop for later in the book for one of the greatest Aes Sedai. Like, I love how very well flushed out Elaine's character is, how she's coming across, how she is sensible.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I love Elaine for so many reasons.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. She's a really great character, and I've really enjoyed any time that she's on the screen. I it just is very, like I said, she's very logical in what she says, and is able to just help them through what's going on. I help Egwene, and just like, hey, you're gonna fail at reopening the gate. You can't do it. Many people tried. You're just gonna get kicked out. And that's not what she would have wanted. And just walks her through it and helps her process her emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And she does it in a way where it's very, lack of a better term, loving. Even though they're just met, she just
Mm-hmm.
has a lot of love for her people in general.
I am so glad that's coming across. Because that is how
It
it is in
is.
the book. She truly loves her people. Like, and that is just, it's so freaking good. I
Mhm.
just, and for me, I also love how once, like, again, Elaine was moving in and they're like, who the heck said you could bring all your palace crap in with you? And how
Yeah.
Elaine's like, yeah, I'm not telling you who my source is. And the mistress of novices is like, well, then you're going to be, the person is going to be switched. She's like, what if I took it in their stead? Well, you'll be in my room for the next month. Okay, what time works best?
Yup.
Because that is her. That is, she is that kind of spicy little redhead.
Which honestly threw me off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I Because it's a trope that I really enjoy, but has become a little overdone at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I At the time this was written, obviously it wasn't. I'm sure it was new and fresh, but it's the royalty who's not snooty. They're not
Mm-hmm.
someone who looks down on their subjects. They're the more relaxed, the more friendly. They don't really care about their title as much. I am that kind of royalty, and I really enjoy that trope when it's done right, and here it's done beautifully.
Mm-hmm. Like, I just love Elaine's character so much.
Yeah. I'm
But,
So what
uh,
else with the White Tower? Oh, Matt. Let's talk about Matt real quick.
okay, so the new actor that they've gotten to replace Matt, he's doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, he is.
But
I've really enjoyed his character. And what? So is that how things happen, where he leaves the group again?
no. So this is what happens
Okay.
in the book. So at actually Matt is with Rand and Perrin through the Great Hunt all the way till the end of book 2. where he at the beginning of book 2 he is separated from the dagger,
Hmm.
like what Moraine does in season 1,
Yeah.
where she does that separation, but it is actually physically making Matt sick and ill from being separated from the dagger. The
Okay.
healing is not complete. So when they go to Elan to
Hmm.
basically fight Shamael and the Shan Chan and all of that, after all that is done, Matt goes back to the White Tower I think Egwene, or
Hmm.
either way, he goes back to the White Tower and finishes the healing process.
Okay.
And in one respect, he feels like he's being held captive, but
Okay.
he's able to go out, walk around, and interact with people in the tower. And this was one of my favorite scenes in The Dragon Reborn book 3, is that he actually watches some of the upcoming warders spar. Two of the warders are Elaine's brothers.
Oh, okay.
One of them, it's her half brother, who she's not the biggest fan of, and one that's her full brother, who she absolutely adores. Both are ladies' men. So
Of course.
there's a bunch of novices gathered around, just like, again, ogling at these young men. It's very
Hmm.
much like, oh, look at these knights. It's very much that level. And Matt just kind of stumbles in, and he's just like, all right, I bet you I can take you both down. Because he's kind of cocky. Because what Matt's power is very interesting compared to Perrin's and Rand's.
Yeah.
He, Matt reawakens like memories from his past lives, where he was a general of Manetheren.
Okay.
So he's able to speak the old tongue. He's able to remember old strategies. He's super lucky. That is his key thing. Is it is luck. His
Master
power
Chief.
is his yeah, Master Chief to the umpteenth degree. But it's if Master Chief actually recognizes his luck, curses his luck, but is going along with it.
Okay.
So Matt goes through and actually he beats the living tar out of Galwin and oh my gosh, I can't remember the other brother's name, but he beats them with a stick, whereas these guys are going at him with a sword. And actually, the Warder Blade Master is like, there was a story of basically of an old man who was able to topple these great knights. Yeah, that's just what happened to you guys. It was one of my favorite instances in the third book. I don't think we're going to be getting that, so that's why I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
But just because Matt, he feels like he's held captive, and there is an instance where he is able to escape. And this is where his luck comes in clutch. Is he basically breaks out of the White Tower, is like, I don't got any money to get on a ship. Guess I'm gonna go gamble. And he goes from tavern to tavern and is able to scrounge up enough gold to get to Tyr.
That's awesome.
Like Matt, Matt in the first couple books irritates the living crap out of you. Around book
Hmm.
3, you're like, I kind of like him. And then towards the end, you're like, I will die for this man.
Oh, that's cool. So his right now, his whole story arc and character progression isn't how it all like goes in the book.
He's always had this confidence and swagger.
Okay.
So in this take, he's feigning that confidence.
Yeah, because he doesn't have confidence in this. In this, he's down on himself. He very much so lacks confidence, and he is like she says uh, he's a coward.
Yeah, and this is the thing. That's where Matt's character is very different from the book. Because in the beginning, he's a lot like KJ. Okay, just so you
Okay.
get an idea, where he was that cocky, arrogant. Anything he can do to get away with it, he will do.
Okay.
But as he grows, he begins going, ugh, crap. I do not want to be associated with the wheel, but I'm being forced into it. It just very much comes more onto like, well, this is what it is. I'm going along with it.
Yeah.
He was never really like self doubting. He never really had this melancholy sense to him.
Okay.
So I think they might have made that choice because in the beginning, Matt is almost intolerable. Whereas this way, it's more on they are, I think, trying to make the shift of like he doesn't have confidence to where now he's overconfident.
Gotcha.
That's at least what I think is the what they're trying to do with
Hmm.
Matt.
Okay.
But I love how he runs into Min
Yeah.
because Min is also a very important character in it as a whole.
Hmm.
So I'm glad they brought her back into. Glad they're tying her more closer to, because again, at some point Matt and Rand are going to meet up, and I'm glad that Min will be a lot with them then,
Yeah.
because Min is with the three all the way till like book 3, and then she like, oh yeah, she gets forced into like White Tower politics. She's used as a pawn, and she's stuck there for a while.
Gotcha. And that's kind of how they're doing it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Where right now she's basically working for Leandrin.
Yep, Leandrin.
Leandrin. Working for her so that way Moraine can't control her anymore. And so she's kind of locked into politics right now. But I think that, yeah. So I just think that it was really interesting. And I kind of had a feeling throughout the entire thing that that was going to be the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
I, but it was surprising, but in a aha, I was right type of way, rather than like I didn't see that coming at all.
Yeah,
But it's still in a really positive way. I really enjoyed it. I thought that was a good little twist.
yeah, I agree. Uh, but yeah, I think that kind of does a good summary of episode 2.
Hmm.
Uh, episode 3, I really want to dive into the beginning of this because there is a huge chunk that this is where the changes they made to Nynaeve's acceptance trial I like better than what they did in the book.
Okay,
Because the three arches are supposed to represent past, present, and future fears.
gotcha.
So in the book, the first trial is actually, again, I'm just going to read the summary here. Nynaeve is in a maze with no memory of her past. She only remembers an echo of Shiriam's voice, which is the matron, the mother of novices,
Hmm.
reminding her that the way will come but once. After wandering through the maze for a while, she encounters Aginor, one of the Forsaken. She runs and he taunts her as he chases. Her fear changes to anger and she channels a fireball which strikes him in the chest. They begin to battle, and Nynaeve is winning and close to finishing him off, but then the exit arch appears, and frustrated, she abandons the battle and leaves.
Okay.
So, again, as you know from the show, it's more on she's trying to get over the loss of losing her parents.
Hmm.
I feel like that is a better choice than this. Which, don't get me wrong, this is a really cool fight, but when it comes to conquering fears, kind of what the accepted test is supposed to be, this is a little out there for something that's supposed to represent the past.
Yeah.
So I like her dealing with her parents' death instead.
Yeah.
Now,
I thought it was a good test for her.
yes, second arch got just about everything right other than switch a couple of the players around. Like instead of was it Matt's mom, Natty Cawthon,
Hmm.
it is first off Sinbui is the mayor. Uh Bran is dead, and the new wisdom is Milena Alar from Watch Hill. And she bullies people into doing things and again murdering those who stand against her.
Okay.
So that's where a lot of the things they do, like again, still has the semblance, still has the essence of it. They kind of just change the name of the players to
Yeah.
people that again we would know from season 1.
Hmm.
And then the third one, that one really threw me for a little bit of a loop because I almost didn't catch it until as she is going over the hill and meets Lan. I'm like, she's still in the gate, isn't she?
Yup.
But yeah, so in the book, Nynaeve finds herself in a beautiful meadow in a restored Melchior. Lan is there and they kiss, but she doesn't want it. Lan tells her she is the queen of Melchior and they have children. Nynaeve desperately wants to get out of the dream, but begins to get caught up in it as if it was real. She misses the arch and then remembers everything. Egwene alone in the tower, Rand likely to go mad, Mat and Perrin in trouble, and all of it is Moraine's fault. She imagines blackthorns piercing her flesh, which allows her to embrace Sidar, which is the women's half of the One True Power. And despite Sheriam's warning, she channels and forces the arch to reappear, and then flees from Lan, begging her to stay.
Interesting.
All these happen sequential. Like, there is no thought of Nynaeve is lost to the arch. So that's where I did like that play instead, because it was a stronger character development for both making Egwene draw closer to Elaine, building that friendship stronger, and really making her realize how important Nynaeve is to her.
Yeah.
So I
No, I thought
really
it was
like
really
those
well
changes.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done, and I think that um, it really did, like I said, solidify the relationship between Egwene and the Princess Heir. I'm terrible with names.
Dude, I only know this because I have them written down on a paper in front of me.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, so I really like that and really helped solidify their relationship. Um, and it really goes to show the power that Nynaeve has.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because they have a theme where hundreds have died, hundreds have been lost to this. No one can open a portal a second time, and like you could take an escape. And I thought it was really cool how they have that, and I knew it was coming. I knew that she wasn't going to be stuck there,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was interested to see how they're going to do it. And I had a feeling it was going to be that because she has it earlier where she tries to channel in the second one to heal, but she can't. And
Yeah.
then she gets so desperate that she does, and it's still that whole thing that she has to rely on the desperation, the fear, and all those
Mm-hmm.
things to channel instead of just being able to channel. Um, but I still thought it was really cool that it shows her power and that she's capable of doing that. So
Mm-hmm. And this is where, again, and honestly, Nynaeve stays like that through most of the series. She's not able to channel unless she's pissed.
fair.
So instead, she just learns on what are her triggers. And honestly, life is the biggest trigger for her. Like, actually, I want to say Moraine is the biggest trigger.
Yeah.
But what is very interesting, so this is how the two halves of the power work, and this is why they're very different. On why, like, Rand can't go to Egwene or Moraine and ask how do you channel, is because the way the channeling works is very different. For women, they say it is succumbing to the power. It is like going down the river, going with the current. You are a flower on top of the water.
Okay.
Whereas with men, it is you're seizing the power. You have to grab it, wrangle it. Is you have to force the power to work for you. You have to grab the river and change its direction.
Okay.
So that's why I kind of like it, is because the way they even say it in the book is like it is like a fish explaining a bird how to walk. Like, it's just so far out there that they don't know how to teach the other.
Okay.
So Nynaeve and her stubbornness, it makes
Hmm.
sense why she struggles to channel.
Yeah.
And why for her, when she's angry, that's when she's able to go with the flow of emotions that are associated with it.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that really makes the books interesting, and actually, and the show is showing this in a great way.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think that just about covers the first 3 episodes. I'm going through making sure I'm not missing anything. I did like how at the dinner party they did explain at least the way Dias de Mar is kind of working, although they just call it the game of houses. Again, we already
Yeah.
talked about how it's cool to see Logain going mad. And I do like the little snippet they had with the fireworks
Yeah.
because there is a specific group that only they know how to make fireworks.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of a little cool foreshadowing, a little cool reference that they dropped in there. Uh, yes, Celine and Rand's relationship, it being toxic.
Very.
uh, but again, just I'm trying to remember here. One of the notes I have is like, I'm glad we see Nynaeve's vision. I'm trying to remember what I meant by that.
Talking
But
about with the
yeah, final.
final
Yeah,
vision, the final one where their daughter. And,
yeah, that's right. I like how we see her going through all of that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think my final thought, again, the notes I had for this episode is this episode to me really demonstrated that when the changes make sense to the character's growth or in telling the character's story, it will be met with more acceptance, in my opinion. The changes to Nynaeve's trials made the most sense in displaying her character. I also love how they have Elaine as as a compass or a source of common sense. Again, she had this same kind of role in the books, and someone who has to deal with all these stubborn women. I think that's overall the summary I'm having with all this is the changes they're making are for the character's benefits. Some of the other changes they made, again, I think could also be rooted in real world situation. Like having Leandrin be the one to teach them instead of the Armelin C, I think is not only just a stronger character choice, but I think even from the casting wise, maybe the Armelin C has a higher pay cut than Leandrin does. But again, that's
Could
where I
be.
don't know. I don't know. But either way, the choices they made for us learning more about Leandrin, us building a better connection with Leandrin, I like it, especially for what is to come, or even if they stay with what is to come.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I think that is a good choice. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm really excited for the next episode on Thursday.
Uh,
Um,
Same here. I'm actually really excited now for season 2. I have been pleasantly surprised so far, and I am really looking forward to next week's episode.
and once we get there, we'll probably end up talking about that.
Mm-hmm. And we will
But
put the bookmark or put the show on pause there till next week.
yeah, well, thank you all for tuning in, listening, and enjoying.
We'll catch you guys
Until
next
next
time.
time.
Right, bye.